Hey everyone, Jimmy from BLUELINE SCG. Today we are doing a school training at the Visionary School of Arts here in Stewart. The Visionary School has roughly 80 to 200 students during the course of the year and roughly 4 to 6 teachers. So it doesn't matter the size of the school, the size of the daycare center. Everybody needs to go through this type of training to make sure that they're taking all the necessary steps to keep the school safe, keep the students safe, and their environment more secured. Well, good morning, everybody. How are you? Good. I'm Jimmy, and this is Robert. We're from BLUELINE SCG. We are a security consulting group that really started in the active shooter business of mitigating active shooter incidents, doing some training. Also developed a security system that we developed back in 2016. That's throughout schools and cities, churches throughout Georgia and here in Florida. I've got 36 years experience now, former law enforcement and in the security industry. I served on the MSD Parkland, the shooting down there. I served on their reenactment team where we went in and reenacted the entire shooting incident. We ended up going in there 2 summers ago before the building was torn down, and the crime scene itself was left untouched. So it was pristine crime scene. I've, in my years in law enforcement, never been on a crime scene like that before. So everything was left where it was from the shooting back in February of 2018. But the reason I bring it up to you is that being on that reenactment team, I learned a lot while I was there, and I'm able to bring what I learned there to schools such as yours. You guys are just as important as any high school, any college, any other teaching facility in the country. You have students here. You are their first and last line of defense. You need to be trained, and you need to create that awareness in your own mind that if something does happen, you have a plan. That's the most important thing, is having some type of plan. In many cases, where there's just inactivity or people freezing up, that's a natural response to a critical incident. So what we want to do is try and get you guys thinking a little bit outside the box and starting to build those rings around you, those security rings, that we can prevent those things or even deter them. Okay. So before I really get started, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? Let me know, how long you've been here and what you do.
Well, I am Alicia Jones, and I've been here from since the beginning. Opened school with Lynn about 15 years ago. Did the first art class and was just with her from the beginning. So we've been at this location a little over 10 years.
Do you remember my daughter Jackie coming in here?
Probably.
Yeah, it's
Probably.
been a while.
It's been a long time.
She's 20. She's 25 now, if you can believe that.
Oh my gosh!
Just bought her first home.
Really old.
Yeah. I was just at it. She just bought her first home. Was there last night to sing it for the first time up in tradition. Yeah. Yeah. Time goes by.
It goes by fast.
Yeah.
I'm MJ. I've only been here since like the middle of the spring semester, so I'm still just starting out. But I was here for pretty much the entire summer.
How old are you now?
20.
20. So you've grown up in the active shooter world, going through high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the person who keeps my friends calm. So.
Good. Yeah, I call my daughters. My oldest is 25. I call her the 9/11 baby because she was born right after 9/11. So all of our fears were worrying about terrorists, right? Growing up, and then the active shooter world. That's why I call my second daughter Caroline. She's 21. It's your age. She's the active shooter baby. So now you've gone from terrorists to actually the person sitting next to you in a classroom, having to grow up with those fears. Those are all real for you guys at your age, and it's important for us. I'm 56 years old to recognize that, because when I grew up and when Robert grew up, we were worried about nuclear bombs, okay, nuclear missiles, and we had drills of getting on our desk, under our desk, like that's going to do anything, but like most standardized training, it doesn't do anything. So, but we were worried about a threat that was, thousands of miles away, to terrorists, to now the person sitting next to you. So for you guys, this is very, very real and something that you've had to live through that we cannot relate to. So it's our job to do the best we can to try and do that.
My name is Abby. And I've been here for 4 years. I am an art teacher here and instructor.
Okay, great.
I'm Alex. I've been here for, I want to say, 5 or 6 years now.
Oh, wow.
I'm one of the teachers.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
So were you ever a student here?
I was.
Okay.
Well, as a teacher.
She was a student.
I was a student. I started as a student like 11 years ago, I want to say. So, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You stuck with it. Well, you guys are unique here. Um, it's a unique school. Lynn and Tony do a great job with what they do with combining, faith and art. And the end product is, really amazing. But I think the testament to the great things that they are doing is the longevity of the people, a former student and now an instructor being here. That says a lot about your leadership. It always comes back to leadership. So when I was talking to Tony about the security of here, understand we're very involved with Florida Faith Alliance, which is Lynn's obviously her big project right now. And with that, dealing with human trafficking, this is really right now, this is home base for that. And so there are definitely some security measures that need to be put into place. One of the biggest things is we cannot have anybody who's on the registry for being a pedophile or registered sex offender walking into the school. If that were to happen, she'd probably lose any opportunity she had at getting a grant, right? So we're going to work on getting those security measures put in, but we'll go through that in a few minutes about what our recommendations are going to be to the school to keep you guys safe, and also to put up some front lines of defense here. That we got to move your perimeter out, and I'll talk about that in a second. So before I get started on that, have there been any things that have happened in the past? You've been here a very long time, that have been concerning to you as far as the safety aspect goes.
The sheriff's department really put an end to anything that was a little concerning. We have a lot of vagrant, active drug users that would take advantage of the empty rural area, in the back. But the sheriff's, office team did a great job just kind of cleaning it up. We haven't had any sort of incident since then, and the incident wasn't, I wouldn't even really call it an incident. It's more like somebody maybe passing out on in the side area, that sort of thing. But
so have you guys had any issues with parent fights, custody, any issues like that?
No.
So that's when we're doing a threat analysis, to me, that's one of your biggest threats that as the school expands, you just never know what the future is going to hold. You may have a custody situation where a parent wants to come in here and pick their child up. That is not allowed to do so. So, you may have had incidents where it may have happened and you may not even know about it. But the thing is to kind of get in front of it now and start putting those things in place to where you're doing everything within your power to prevent that from happening. So I'm glad to know that you haven't really had any incidents. The only thing is, I will say to you, and I'm saying this not to incite any fear into you or anything like that, with Florida Faith Alliance starting to get bigger and bigger, and them reading right on their Visionary School of the Arts, right when you get on the website, it takes 2 seconds to figure out where this place is. So she's not off the grid by any stretch of the imagination. And with that understanding, with sex trafficking, it's very, very big business. And we have now shut our border down. So the majority of the sex trafficked people that they're taking and utilizing for a lot of these perverted measures, they're looking internally now. We just now had an attempted abduction just here locally with a woman who was in her 20s. So they're going to be looking elsewhere. So we want to make sure that we try and do everything we can to prevent that element from coming here, because with Lynn being out there helping lock people up, it's big business. So we never know what someone's intention is with trying to prevent that from happening. You know what I mean? So we just want to make sure you guys are all safe and you guys have security measures in place and you have a plan in place. Okay. Right now, if you were to have an incident take place, let's say somebody came in, they were a threat, they were yelling and screaming, and you guys have your kids typically in the art area there?
Usually in this room, we do keep the door locked at all times, especially when there is a class going on. If an incident like that occurred, we would first close off these doors.
Okay.
We tried to keep them closed anyway during class time because, office administration, phone calls, stuff like that, it can get a little distracting. So.
Right. So let me ask you a question, because we had discussed this yesterday. One of our recommendations is going to be that we create what's called a man trap And a man trap is a dual layer security ring before anybody can get to the students. They have to get through your front door, then they have to get through a second door. Now, these are hollow core doors, not the best doors, but they are a door. Okay. One thing to know about active shooters or people who carry out these threats, they typically go after what they can see. If they can't see it, they'll walk past it. And just real quick to talk about Parkland, on the first floor, we had a lot of casualties and a lot of death. On the second floor, we had none. And on the third floor, we had a bunch. The reason nobody got hurt on the second floor or shot is because they knew they were under attack from what they heard on the first floor. And they all got into their safe corners. Does everybody know what the safe corner is? Okay, yeah. So if we're at that doorway, a safe corner is anywhere you can put students to where if there is a shooter at that doorway, they can't see them. You guys are in an unfortunate situation here where you've got a doorway and 2 big rooms. So we'll talk about that a little more. Your best is time and distance. Getting those kids away from this door as rapidly as you can and getting them out the back. Okay. So we definitely want to promote that as being your first instinct. There is not really a shelter in place here for all these kids. This is kind of a tactical question. Can anybody tell me the difference between having cover and having concealment? Go ahead.
Concealment, there's something in front of you and you're not visible. Cover is something that's going to protect you from injury.
Okay, good. Do you have firearms training?
No, my mom was in the Army police.
Oh, okay.
And I used to be a very paranoid person.
That's all right. A little paranoia can save your life, as long as you keep it in check and it doesn't you don't let it run your life. But, yeah, so we like to call it vigilance. And, that's really important in everyday life, is having that, always being aware of your surroundings. So she's exactly right. So cover and concealment, I really don't have a whole lot of cover in here other than, isn't there a refrigerator or something in here? Yeah. I mean, you can't even really get behind it.
Get behind anything.
There's not a whole lot of cover.
Literally, it would be backdoor exits.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah. So that's getting out the door, metal doors. But this is all drywall here, so it doesn't have any bullet stopping power. So you've got concealment here, which is better than nothing. Obviously, you can't see it. Your typical younger shooter is not going to take shots at something they don't see. It's just typically what we have seen. It doesn't mean that anybody with any knowledge of your facility isn't going to go that far. Okay. So it's important that we understand that when anything like that, if you guys have a code word or something that you are going to use to let you know that there is an incident and start moving kids, you guys should develop that. Maybe use favored because it's such a commonly used word here.
Too common of a word.
Yeah.
So you hear that, you'd be like, yes, amen.
Yeah, yes. Woohoo!
Right.
No, run. Yeah, so we'll think of something that you guys use as a word that lets you know it is code red for you, and start moving kids and start moving them out the back. I hope you guys never have to do that, but it's something that you should figure out, getting them up. And you can even start developing games with the kids where you do drills with them. I'm happy to come back and do those with you, where we have that code word and we go, oh, guys, it's time for that game. And you get them up and you get them out as quickly as possible, okay? So understanding that if there is a threat that is taking place outside of the building in the parking lot, it's best to keep these kids inside the building as best you can, but moving them away from that threat inside your protected area. So that may be a time you're going to take everybody and move them towards the back doors. And if that threat begins to make its way inside the building, you can quickly move them out. Okay.
What's nice about this is it's like a pretty nice closet. We should probably keep it a little bit more clear in case we had to move kids in the closet. You could at least conceal them with the door.
Yep.
And if we hear like this door being broken down or something, that's when we move out.
Yeah, because you do have a back door. Yeah, you do have a back door there, and that is a great observation.
Yeah.
That's a great plan. I would recommend that. You guys have plenty of room in there. My wife was a teacher at Bethel, and she was able, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it or not, but they had the connecting bathrooms. And so she was actually able to get all of her kids, all of her students, 15 of them, into that bathroom. So when you got to really pile into that protected safe space area, it's amazing how tight you can get. But if you make a game out of it, one thing I might recommend to you guys too, maybe get some glow sticks or something and put them in there. Have them in a case, and that way if you get the kids in there, you can crack the glow sticks, maybe tell a story. She had come up with we haven't gotten it done yet, but an actual book about a mama bear protecting her cubs in an active shooter situation, something you could read to the kids. But if it's a story that they've heard before, you guys know about teaching kids better than I do. A story they've heard before, something they're comfortable with, that'll make them feel good about being in there. But it's a great thing because you got a bailout area. So one of the things we're looking at is improving the camera systems here. Wouldn't be a bad idea to have an inexpensive monitor in there. That's actually, if that is your safe room and then you have the bailout, to be able to see what's going on in that lobby. So you say, time for us to bail out. It's time for us to go. Because now you're not just depending on one sense, you're depending on two senses now for verification for you. Because what you never want to do, and this is what one of the conversations that I have arguments with people about. If I'm in a school shooting, I'm running. Okay, I get that. But you may be taking an area where you are actually safe in the particular area, you're sheltered in place, and you may be moving towards a threat and you don't even know it. So unless you know where that threat is, it is best to stay situated where you are and remain quiet as best you can, and then be agile enough that you can move if that threat becomes viable. Okay? It's a lot to think about, it really is. I know. And it's overwhelming. And I'm going to be honest with you, this conversation sucks. I hate having it with you guys. It sucks. But it's something that you want to keep in your mind, because I can promise you, once you go through a training like this, it's like anything else. It's like firearms training. When we train people in their homes, what are you going to do if? And everybody in Florida's got a gun sitting in their house, right? But they have absolutely no clue what they're going to do if an invader comes in the home. And the majority of the time, they're going to do the wrong thing, and the wrong person is going to end up getting hurt. I mean, most people don't even understand the laws. So when we put people through this training, it's like the most important thing we do is everybody has an established role. You have a husband who's going to go take that firearm and hold the position and give verbal commands, tell him, get out, I have a gun. But what's mom doing, right? Is she yelling at him? Is she hitting him in the back saying, do something, you idiot? Or is she getting on the phone and calling 911, right? She's got a role. Her role is the communicator. And that role, getting law enforcement there rapidly, is just as important as standing your ground and giving someone verbal commands to get them out of the house. You need to get the cops here as quickly as possible, right? So that same thing goes here. What are your roles, all right? So if something were to happen, establishing your call to 911, wherever you keep your cell phones, making sure you've got them in proximity to you. Everybody with an iPhone knows you can triple tap. We do it inadvertently all the time. We're trying to hit our volume. You triple tap your iPhone, it's automatically calling 911. Okay? One thing to remember, if you are not, so you've got those features on your Apple. Okay? One of the things to remember, that if you call from your iPhone and you call 911, they have a basic, our 911 call system here in Martin County is actually very good, some of the best in the country. They can triangulate and they get a pretty good GPS location on where you are. So they're going to know that it's either here or Brightway, most likely, that there is having the incident. And if you say Visionary School of Arts, obviously they're going to know where that is quickly. But don't be 100% dependent upon it. Unless you call from the landline here in the 911, they do not have your address. They do not know who you are. So as technology has advanced in our day, when I was in law enforcement, it was always, if you are having an incident, a domestic incident, I want you to call 911 and drop your phone. So when the people would call 911 and drop their phone, back in the day when we had landlines, dispatcher would know immediately, oh, this is their house, this is their address, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just listening to this domestic going on. And now law enforcement's already on their way. We've lost that ability now. Sadly, with technology, we've lost that archaic ability with our landline phones. So that's why they asked that information. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, what if someone, I don't know if actually true? What does it take, 2 or 3 minutes of being on the line to trace a call to have that capability, or no?
No, it's actually pretty instant now because we have a real-time crime center. So it's quicker. It all depends on call volume, carrier, cell tower, how many people are on a cell tower. If we're having the Martin County Fair across the street and something happens here, cell phones are lit up over there, right? So now we're taking away from the cell phone towers, and so there's only so much communication that they can take on overload to push information out. They can receive it really easily, but pushing information out on location and things like that can be a little trickier. So the best is to get the information out as best you can. Another thing is too that the complaint takers, when your call goes into 911, it's a complaint taker who takes your information. It's not the actual dispatcher. So the game operator we used to play when we were young, it goes from one person to another person. It gets typed into the system rapidly, and typically on a critical incident like an active shooter, the dispatcher will take that call and feed it directly to law enforcement. So there is a delay in there. So the best information you can give in that critical incident is where you are and what's going on. That's the most important thing of the 5 W's of what you need to give out. Okay. So where you are and what's going on. We have an active shooter. He is, white guy, black shirt, and he's got a rifle. Okay. Those are the most important things that you have to get out. Same thing with a situation that you're trying to de-escalate. An angry parent, getting that information out as quickly as we got it. An irate parent here, he's in the lobby. I mean, you guys don't be afraid to call your local agency here. I can tell you Stewart PD and Martin County, they want to know immediately. You're not bothering anybody. They want to get here as rapidly as possible. They're, sheriff, just like our old sheriff, is very concerned with mitigating crime. Okay. So we want to make sure that you get that call out as rapidly as possible, especially when there's kids involved. They will be here in force to take care of that threat. Okay. So those are things to think about with your 911 is having the phones accessible. Learn how to do it on your iPhone. That will immediately call 911. You'll hear the phone go boop, and it will start calling, and you got to cancel it to stop it from calling. So it'll immediately do it. That's a good feature to have. If you are in a situation where you've lost all your fine motor skills when you pick that phone up, right? You've lost your dexterity. You're shaking in a critical incident, and to have that automatic movement to do that, where you're actually just hitting that button, makes it a lot easier. You got sweat on your hands. God forbid you have blood on your hands. You can't do anything on your screen, right? It's a bad feature that we have with iPhones. You can't do anything. So you want to try and figure out how that automatic dialing works for you. So you have that. We'll talk about our rings of protection here and the recommendations that we're going to make. So you guys look at where your ring is in here. And whenever we talk about school security, I always compare it to 9/11. After 9/11, what's the first thing we started protecting in airplanes? It was the cockpits, right? They were able to get into the cockpit and utilize the planes as weapons. So the priority one was protecting the cockpits, okay? You got to think of your classroom and that student as the pilots and your cockpit. You guys got a huge cockpit in here, okay? That's a problem, right? So you're not like a typical classroom in a school that they can shelter off that classroom, drop a shade in the window, have the door locked, get in the safe corner. Most of them are cinder block classrooms in the public high school. You've got all those advantages that you guys don't have here. So you've got a more difficult task to undertake when it comes to building that ring. So what we need to do in our recommendations is to build that ring out as far as we can to protect you. So the recommendations would be, yeah, you keep the door closed, but we're going to put an access control system over there, okay, where people need to be buzzed in. And we're going to recommend a visitor management system that I had explained to you before. That's where people come in, just like any public high school you go to, and have to scan their driver's license and they get a name tag. We may not need to go as far as getting name tags, but as far as parents dropping their kids off, they really should be checking their child in and checking their child out. Just for civil liabilities, I mean, you're wide open to anything bad happening, with a kid getting kidnapped or whatever. Anything like that ever happens, they're going to get sued for millions here, and everything's going to be shut down. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. You were like, I don't know about the parents wanting to do that. Two things. If you explain it to them, listen, we're, A lot of people probably know that Lynn is involved with human trafficking now, and they understand that, and they probably support that as something that's going to keep their kids safer and the parents giving them more knowledge, that they understand that this is actually a safety protocol that's being put into place, that we have to do this. I mean, what parent is going to be upset about increasing the safety of their kids? Okay. And then the second thing is muscle memory. So how many of you guys have flown an airplane? All of you, right? So when you go to the airport and you get into that checkout line, what's the first thing you do with your shoes? Take them off and you put them in the bin, right? Well, for years before 9/11, we never did that. We never took our shoes off. We never took our belt off. We never had to take stuff out of our backpacks. We just threw everything on the thing and just walked on through the security gate. And what ended up happening was, after 9/11, we started putting these protocols in place, and everybody hemmed and hawed at the very beginning. But over time, everybody just gets used to it. And now it's instinct. No one has to be told to take their shoes off anymore. We just all do it instinctively. Same thing will happen with your parents here. If they're coming here and dropping their kids off, they'll instinctively start getting out of their cars, come in and scan their driver's license, and let their kids in. Okay? So that's the first safety protocol. Now we're taking that ring that would have been in this room, and we're now widening out. So how are we widening it out past the perimeter of your building or even in the parking lot? When we're scanning that driver's license, we know who's coming in here. Okay? That's very important. You may have a parent that is not a good person who's got a kid in here. They may be on the registry. They may be a sexual predator. You do not know what their life situation is, what freedoms they've been afforded from a judge. You just do not know, but you should know as an institution, educational institution where you're responsible for all of these children, not just theirs, who is coming into this building and what their past intentions have been as far as crime goes. So that's your business, okay? Because you're caring for other kids, right? So you're not invading on anybody's privacy when you do that. This is standard operating procedure for every single school now in the United States that you have to scan in, okay? Most hospitals are that way. You got to scan in and get a name badge, right? So why not do the same thing here? You guys are really an elite specialized school, so you should definitely have these things in place. So we're going to make that recommendation that we have the scan in. We're going to make the recommendation that you can't see in the building. I don't like the fact that we're standing in front of the building. We can see right into the lobby and see everything that's going on. You agree with that? Yeah. That is a problem. And I sat this morning in my car. I pulled right up and I'm drinking my coffee and I'm looking straight in, and I could see her running around. I could see her all the way back. I could see all the way into the back. I could see everything I needed to see in here. The good thing is, you guys are familiar with the majority of cars that are pulling up. It's normally the same cars. It's either Vince's people or your guys' people here that are parked in this parking lot. It's a good thing. You don't have a whole lot of different stuff. There's a lot of Infinities in the parking lot, so we know who's driving. So, those are all good things, but you get distracted. You're not paying attention. There's somebody out there who's actually scouting out this place and seeing if they want to attack it. And normally you're not going to have a situation where somebody's not familiar with this facility before they come and they do something. It's normally somebody who knows, who's been there before, former students, you guys know all that is looking to do something. So we want to get that opaque tint or whatever it is that they decide to do. I mean, I was even suggesting to Tony, hey, why don't you guys have a competition for the students and have them design something that becomes a wrap that you put on the windows? Wouldn't that be cool? And now it's the face of the Visionary School of the Arts that one of the students didn't have their name on there. And now when everybody pulls up, they see that. They probably won't replace it every year with a new because it's very expensive to do. But it is a great security measure to have. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
Oh, no, I was suggesting even the Visionary logo kind of spread out.
Sure. Yeah, and it needs to go. It needs to run the length all the way over to Florida Faith. So everything's, and those doors, I know they're locked off now. Everything over there has got to be secured. I'm even going to recommend that area is closed off. It's got to have a keypad to get in and out of it. So we could develop that. Our visitor management system, they got to, have an intercom system. You're letting people in, you know who they are. And when people are coming through the front door, it's really going to be your job as the gatekeeper. We got to watch the tailgaters. So, and in most developments now that you go into that had security gates, it used to be the big long security gate goes and you pull in and 5 cars are going, right? We call those tailgaters. Now you see they got that electric arm. So you go in, now the electric arm slams down. You got a key in, right? That's to prevent that, because everybody knows. I mean, every pizza delivery guy knows. I don't have the code. I'm waiting for somebody to go in. I'm going to follow them in there to get my pizza delivered, right? But one out of every 100's a bad guy. He's going in there to burglarize the place, and he got in. So if you guys understanding those protective rings, we're going to do the same thing in here with these 2 doors. Yeah, so let me ask you guys a question. So that far door is the best one to have closed at all times, right? Yeah, and utilizing this one as the one to come in and out of? Okay, perfect. So what we'll do is we're going to make that recommendation that this will be that's got to have the keypad on it. And when you to get in and out, just key in and key out. Very, very simple, okay? So, I mean, it's going to involve her getting up from behind the desk and getting people in, but it's just again, it's going to become muscle memory for you, okay? So once we have all those things in place, we'll come back and we'll maybe run a drill and see how that goes.
Yeah, were you guys able to like look around? You guys at every place that we had?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in this building so many times. Yeah. So yeah, I was here yesterday. We looked at all of your cameras, everything that's in here, and how we're going to enhance upon that. So yeah, you're going to be much safer once we get everything all implemented. And then we'll come back and we'll do a drill. I'll put you guys through that. It'd be good to put the kids through a drill also, and we'll get it safer. Okay. And so the reason why we train that is because your body's never going to go where your mind hasn't been. So we got to train you on that, get your body moving. And then once you have that training under your belt, it'll be muscle memory for you. And then if anything does happen, you're going to quickly move these. Everything's all about time and distance. So we're going to get those kids moving as quickly as possible, get them into those safe areas, and then having this great bailout that you guys have here to get outside if the threat starts to come in. By having that monitor in there, you can see it. You guys got any questions at all for us?
No, you just brought some more awareness to me. You know, it's more like you don't think that stuff's gonna happen, but it's really good to be aware of it. You know?
So what I'm going to have you do is, if you can, do you mind being on film?
No.
Okay, why don't you come on up? I'm going to have you just say what you just said, because this will be for your fellow teachers. So I'm here with Abby from the Visionary School. She's one of the instructors here. So you've just gone through this brief training, but about us talking about school safety here and the security measures we're going to be putting in. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like the kids are going to be protected, the teachers, all of us here. We're really, we think this is very important for our students to be safe, for this to be a safe haven, because we always say that when we pray for our classes. We say this is a safe place for them, and this really makes it seem like it's going to be safer, you know? Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, again, it doesn't matter what facility that you have, how small or how large it is. You really need to have this type of training every single school year. You need your refreshers. That's why we're recording everything. Every time you guys bring a new teacher on, I mean, they need to know what you know, right?
Very true.
So when you guys have all those safety the protocols put in place that we're suggesting, we'll go ahead and we're going to run a drill here and see just how well everybody does. But having that continued training is always going to keep you much safer. Having that vigilance and just being smart about it.
Mm-hmm. This is a wonderful place in our community, and we want everyone to come, so they need to be safe.
Yeah, you guys do great work here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your service here and doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. This is Jimmy from Blue Line SCG saying be safe and God bless.